Are your child's sensory needs being met at school? Let's talk about how to make that happen. Picture this. It's the end of the day and your fifth grader is in music class. It's a class that he loves. But after having sat still all day and tried not to fidget, he's having trouble staying regulated. He's bouncing in his chair, he's moving his body, he's trying to do anything to get the input that his body so desperately needs. You know what's coming next, right? The behavior escalates, and suddenly the teacher decides, let's send him to the quiet corner to calm down. Here's the problem. Your child isn't overwhelmed. He's sensory seeking. That quiet corner meant to calm him down feels like a punishment to him. It's the opposite of what he needs. And worse, it sends a message that his natural sensory needs are somehow wrong. When kids are sent out of the classroom for sensory needs, it's not just unhelpful, it can be damaging. They might start to think that their needs are disruptive or even bad. And over time, they might internalize that message and instead of expressing their needs, withdraw or act out even more. Does that sound familiar? If it does, you're not alone. But there are ways to help your child thrive in school to get his or her sensory needs met in a way that doesn't make them feel punished or shamed or singled out. Today, I want to help you rethink those moments and show you how to advocate for creative solutions that meet your child's sensory needs without shame or stigma. Before we jump in, if you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing, and I hope you like the video if you like the video. All right, let's jump in. First, let's talk about the problem with the current responses. Sensory seeking and sensory overwhelm are two entirely different things, but they're often treated the same way in a classroom. A one-size-fits-all response, like sending kids to a quiet corner, might work for someone who's overwhelmed and needs to decompress, but for a sensory seeker, it's like asking them to hold their breath when all they need is air. Like I said, when kids are sent out of the room or away from the action for their sensory needs, it can really be damaging. They might start to think that their needs are wrong or disruptive, and imagine how misunderstood they feel in that moment. Look, I get it. Teachers are stretched really thin, and managing a classroom full of students with different needs is hard. And they're doing the best they can with the understanding or a misunderstanding they have of your child. But here's the thing. When a sensory-seeking child needs to move and he's sent to the quiet corner, it's not helping him calm down. It might be helping the teacher calm down, so let's call it what it is. It might be that the quiet corner, in this case, for a child who needs movement, is more about the adult's needs than your child's. Sometimes teachers think that kids are being disruptive in order to get out of an activity. And of course, sometimes that's true. But most of the time, that's not it at all. They want to participate, but they're not able to fully engage until their sensory needs are met in a way that serves them and also serves the needs of the classroom. And let's talk about what this does to your child. They're not just confused, they're starting to feel ashamed. They're being told your natural needs are disruptive. You're a problem. Over time, they might stop expressing those needs, not because those needs are gone, but because they've learned it's safer to just sit there and suffer. The bottom line, your child isn't trying to disrupt class. They're trying to survive the day in a system that wasn't built for them. So let's rethink what sensory breaks could look like for your child. Imagine if we're back in the music class, and instead of banishing your child to the quiet corner, the teacher assigns them a small task, like handing out music sheets. In that case, your child gets to stand up, they get to move around, and feel like a valued part of the class. It's such a small adjustment, but it could completely change how they experience those moments. Or maybe your child is sent on an important mission, like delivering a note to the office. Do they need to run that note to the office? Probably not. But does it give them the sensory input they so desperately need? Absolutely. Plus now they feel like a hero. Win-win. Their need for movement becomes part of the lesson instead of being something that gets them kicked out. The teacher could also give them other purposeful movement breaks, such as sharpening pencils. Well, wait, do kids even do that anymore? Who cares? Send them to the sharpener anyway. Movement is movement, and it doesn't need to be complicated to work. They can hand out books. They can take a quick trip to the water fountain. These quick tasks can give them the sensory input they need without making them feel singled out. And errands and movement aren't the only option. There are also some small tools that can make a big world of difference for your child's sensory comfort. For instance, a wobble stool or elastic bands on the chair can allow your child to move while sitting still and focusing without being disruptive. Here's the next level. What if your child could say, "Hey, I need to move, I need a break," before they start bouncing in their seat or tapping their pencil? I know you've seen the signs when they're about to lose it. What if they could learn to recognize those signs first? That's a superpower, and we can teach it to them. When the need for movement stops being a bad thing, we can encourage your children to to recognize those signs within themselves and ask for the break when they need it. That way they have some control over their own body, they don't disrupt the classroom, and it saves you from that dreaded call that your child is acting disruptive and you have to come pick them up from school. We need to help shift the mindset of educators about what breaks are for. Breaks should not be a punishment. They're not a failure. They're a strategy, both for sensory seeking and sensory overwhelmed kids. If schools could stop seeing sensory breaks as, oh, this kid is falling apart, and seeing them as, this is how this kid needs to stay on top, the whole classroom dynamic would change. Look, some kids do need a quiet corner, and some kids need to wiggle like they're auditioning for Cirque du Soleil, and that's okay. It's not about treating every kid the same. It's about giving each one what they need. Your child doesn't need to change who they are. They need a system that actually works for them. Whether it's a wobble stool, a quick errand, or actually getting the teacher on board with meaningful breaks, these small tweaks can make a huge difference for your child. And not just for your child, for every child in the classroom. I hope this gives you some ideas to bring to your child's teachers or even to use at home. If you found strategies that work, I would love if you would share them below in the comments so that we can share the wealth, right? Share them. I'd love to hear your ideas, and let's keep this conversation going. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider clicking the like button, and please subscribe if you haven't yet. We'll see you in the next one.